the president warning Khalil's arrest was, quote, the first arrest of many to come, highlighting the administration's crackdown on university protests, with Trump adding, quote, we will find, apprehend, and deport these terrorist sympathizers from our country, never to return again. We expect every one of America's colleges and universities to comply. Let's bring in Misty Marris on this. I haven't seen Misty in a while on the legal side. Great to have you back, Misty. It's always terrific to talk to you. But
thanks, Connell.
What do you make of this and what we know about it, and whether it was all done right, or it raises some questions in your mind?
Well, it certainly raises some questions, because anytime you're implementing something new, there's going to be a question about whether or not it's going to pass that constitutional muster. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's the type of case that you could absolutely see playing out in the courtroom as more and more of these situations arise. So I see this as an area that's going to be burgeoning with case law as more of these situations occur. And there's a question mark about how exactly these new rules are being implemented.
Yeah, it seems to me that a lot of what the Trump administration is going through here, from a political perspective at least, will be looked upon, and maybe from a legal one as well, as they're big advocates for free speech. But is it only speech to which you agree? In other words, where's this line legally where that free speech has crossed into being criminal behavior?
Exactly. And really, there's case law on that for years and years and years. It is that free speech, even speech that somebody finds deplorable, is still free speech. It's when it crosses over into being something that is threatening against another person, against another group. And that is something that's heavily litigated. What does that mean? When does it cross over from speech to actually something that is potentially a threatening issue? So that's the line that you're talking about. But there's other considerations too, Connell, because we have to remember everything matters, right? Where you are. So a government, the rules as far as free speech are different when it comes to a government entity as opposed to a private entity where the First Amendment doesn't apply. So it's a really tangled web as far as how to navigate these issues. And again, it's one of those that I think we're going to see play out in the courts.
This protest group is there because there's supposed to be a news conference with some professors and others, I think in about 20 minutes. So we might go back there and see what they have to say to further their argument. Now, in the meantime, the other story, Misty, that I wanted to talk to you about was Mayor Eric Adams and these text messages that have come out. Headline from the Wall Street Journal: Justice Department releasing messages among the Eric Adams prosecutors. And they say the department said that Hayden Scotton, one of the prosecutors, wrote, I don't want to ask anyone to reject the theory that Williams, the DA, had a political motive in bringing this case. Seems pretty plausible to me. And there's more. I'll read one other text message between the lead prosecutor, Hayden Scotton, and another individual. The unnamed person in this message said, you think it's time to take a seat on the bench? LOL. There it is at the top. And then Scotton supposedly, or did say, you can see it in the text, got to convict Adams before I can think about anything else. So just a couple of examples here about, what was going on. What do you make of it?
So this is pretty explosive, because what we're really seeing play out was the difference between the new DOJ and the directives, which is to drop the Eric Adams case, and the former Southern District, New York, and that prosecution and the attorneys that were handling it, who wanted to move forward with it. So there was a real dichotomy here. But keep in mind, we have to remember where this started. Former U.S. Attorney Damian Williams wrote an op-ed piece in January. And in that op-ed piece, he talked about the city being like a broken compass. He created a website where he talked about his own accomplishments. And so that really started this inquiry that the defense jumped on. So this is before we're talking about the case being dismissed. The defense said, there's clearly political motivation and prejudice here. This case should be dismissed. Now we know Trump administration has taken over, asked for the case to be dismissed. And the question before the court is it without prejudice or with prejudice? Meaning, can it be resurrected?
Right.
And so
it can now, as of now, right?
Well, an independent lawyer who the judge pulled in to say, give me some guidance, has said it has to be with prejudice. And part of that, Connell, is because you see these text messages behind the scene. It could be seen as leverage over Adams if those charges could come back at any point. And so these text messages really played into that decision, just that look of impropriety about what to do next.
Not a good look. Not a good look at all with any of this. Did it surprise you, or?
It did surprise me, because you usually don't see this dirty laundry internally. These things are usually shielded, especially when, if the prosecutors, the DOJ does not want to pursue a case, the judge cannot make them do it. So the question is, how is the case going to be dismissed or just sit on the docket with no one at the prosecutor's table? Obviously, that doesn't make sense. So will it be dismissed forever, or could it be resurrected one day? But you usually don't see these internal communications, which really show that acrimony internally as someone else stepped into the shoes and was in the leadership position at the DOJ.
All right, so final thing, the best way to this be handled now is what?
Well, it sounds like with prejudice would be the best way, and I'm basing that upon the report that was given to the judge by an independent counsel. That's how messy it is, Connell, that the judge had to say, we need to pull in somebody third party not involved to give me, the judge, advice on exactly how to proceed. So I see this going away with prejudice. Huge win for Eric Adams. And again, want to remind everybody, the basis for the dismissal was not because of the merits. In fact, the letter seeking dismissal says we didn't consider that piece of it. So this is all about the handling of the case.
Yeah, it's interesting. They wouldn't have it to hold over his head anymore, which is a big part of the story surrounding all of this. So, wow, that would be big. And it looks like, as you said, the direction we're going, Misty. Thank you. Great to see you again. Misty Marris with us.